Hey friends, hey family, hey loved ones. I manifested a new camera and a new recording system. How awesome is that? We'll see how this goes and how different this is and how it gets to be and evolve and grow. Yeah, so it's been, wow, since April 22nd, 2020 that I started doing and sharing, public videos. I had been doing my own videos to talk and speak certain things out just for myself because sometimes it's so interesting that, like, kind of mulling over certain things or just, having someone to listen or just having, that space to, like, express something kind of uncovers, like, the answers, like, just brings those out. And so I just super appreciate like this practice of speaking and coming on here and sharing my process and just what I'm experiencing, what I'm seeing, what I'm moving into or just, receiving in all sorts of ways. And so it's just been super helpful and awesome for my practice and my process, and my alchemical play. And I super appreciate, being able to, just share myself in authenticity and vulnerability and maybe just offer different things, that might help others like with their own process and their own growth and expansion, their own individuation and knowing, loving, honoring thyself. And it's been a super, super intense last couple days. We're in that Lionsgate portal and love always. But man, just feel like a battering ram. I feel like I was used as a battering ram. Some part of me was, And so there's some super like interesting, potent things that are coming up to be seen, stirred up to the surface, to be illuminated and transformed and transmuted or allowed just to be surrendered, dissolved. Let go of. Let go of. Just letting go, lots of letting go, letting go, letting go. And so, what wants to be said about the last few days and all that I've been working with, playing with, seeing into. So we had Luansaw, the first harvest of the first fruits. And that was a beautiful celebration I got to have with a few beautiful friends and met some new people as well. And it was just such a fun little get together and gathering. And I really super appreciate all the love, all the beauty, all the wisdom that we all got to share together. And so I just wanted to, talk about that. I may share a little bit more. I had written in my journal. I've had some things relating to Luansaw. One of the things that we got to do kind of is inspired when I shared from Love ThySelf by Masuru Emoto. He's the one that did the experiments with the water and the water crystals. I had picked that book up to share, and I think it was like June or July 25th or so. And I had no idea that it was World Water Appreciation Day when I did the video, and I found out like an hour or two after, like I had uploaded the video, and I was like, oh, how cool is that? And so, it was just perfect, and it was a fun little synchronicity, and it's just kind of fun how those things go, like without even knowing. So super fun. But I had been looking up, looking some things because it'd been a while, refreshing on some things. I couldn't remember like how they would do the experiments with the water crystals. And I was just reading like the beginning of the book, and he was sharing about how they did many different experiments with different kinds of prayer and with different kinds of gestures and intentions and languages and, symbols and characters, words, all sorts of things. And one of their experiments that they did was that they had a group that all sat around in a circle and held hands and were praying. And that got some good results. But yeah, what they found that was really, really surprising was that the best and most amazing or astonishing results were actually when people placed their palms together in front of their heart in prayer position. And it was just the simplest, most beautiful prayer that created the greatest results. And just with that position in prayer, that does like change and alter our state of consciousness. Like it does like reconnect us to that beautiful heart that we have that is so, so full of love and wisdom, great wisdom. And so I just thought that was amazing. And what the prayer was, we love you, we thank you, we respect you. We love you, we thank you, we respect you. We love you, we thank you, we respect you. And so there was a suggestion in there to offer that prayer to your own self and to love your own self, and also to offer it to those who are on different paths or different wavelengths, or for, to those you're concerned for, and, those you just want to offer love to. But I felt like that is such a great, a great thing it's such a little thing that has so much potency and so much power in it. And it can like instantly change things within us. And then those changes, those things ripple out, because they did an experiment with this body of polluted water. It was a lake, a polluted lake. They took a small sample from the lake and they prayed and they said, water, we love you. Water, we thank you. Water, we respect you. And it transformed the water sample. And not only did it transform that water sample that they had taken, but it actually spread out to the rest of the lake. It was quantumly connected, quantumly entangled. And the information was sent to like that source of water. Even though it was like separated from its source of water, it was still connected. So I think that's so super interesting to look at and reflect on. And so, yeah, it does. Like these little things that are like really imperceptible to the eye, and sometimes to the mind. Yeah, the heart knows, and the heart, and the soul knows what we really do need for our true well-being. And so I think it's, just really amazing, like what simplicity and like gratitude and presence like can bring, what it can like contribute to and fertilize, catalyze, or regenerate. So I thought that was super awesome. So we got to do that in a circle, and we all said, our own names, and we love you, we thank you, we respect you, and got to go around in a circle, and then give that blessing to the water as well. And we had little chalices, because that was one of my gifts that I chose to give this time, before I even knew we were going to do a little water blessing and a blessing for ourselves. And so, that was awesome. A little chalice, because one of the symbols for Luinsa is the Holy Grail and the ever-flowing cup, and the table of plenty and all of that good stuff, all the abundance and prosperity and the love that we are and that we can create and share, give, receive, be, dream, embody, and become. And so, it's just really beautiful. So I have been practicing that a lot this week, is I love you, I thank you, I respect you. And that has brought a lot of healing for me. And I say it for myself, and I say it for different members of my family, and um, for some others that, like, I may kind of have feelings of hostility towards. And I realize, yeah, I thank you for playing your part, and I love you because I love that part of you that is a part of me. And I want to respect that and honor that. And so I'm offering that, like, and allowing, like, all the rest of it to be there, but really knowing what's really true. I love you, I thank you, and I respect you. And it does change a lot of things, and it does transform, like, or widen the perception of what it is I'm really seeing and what's really being offered to me, what's happening for me and we. So stepping out of victim consciousness and healing the divide and the split within me and the need to fight or pretend or defend or make myself right and the other wrong. And those are the things, I've been looking into and working with and playing with, because, I have had, like, some wounding around the persecution and exclusion and being rejected and betrayed and outcast. And so, like, seeing where I have rejected, like, different parts of myself because I thought they were wrong to be, or they were wrong for me, or they didn't meet my preferences, or what I thought was acceptable to be, what I believed was not right to be. But I'm actually seeing and allowing and receiving and integrating some of these parts of me that I thought I couldn't be. And one of those parts is the badger, the boss, the bitch, the asshole, the villain, and the enemy. And so, like, that's what I was always running away from. I don't want to be seen as that. Dear God, like, that's caused me so much pain, like, and that's why I would overcompensate in being a people pleaser and a rescuer and, a martyr. And so, just kind of looking into a lot of these things, and my disenchantment with people who I perceive want to keep their heads in the sand and keep pretending like, that what's going on is righteous, in a lot of different ways. Yeah, there's lots of mental hoops we jump through to justify our own actions. And to make ourselves right, or so that we can feel right, or in our self-righteousness. And so, I've been looking at identification and how we identify, overly identify and get attached to certain identities and roles that we played, or certain characters that we want others to validate us as being. Or, like playing those roles, like in prophelicity, and that new identity formation mechanism, which resembles sincerity, which is a role that society or your parents or your community or your tribe hands to you, and you're supposed to play that predetermined role, and you're judged by how properly or how sincerely you play that role. And so it's kind of interesting. Been looking into that for the last month, and I had flipped open my older journal that I just finished last month, and flipped open to this page. In the 19th and 20th centuries, greater social mobility and more equality of opportunity unleashed a newfound freedom of self-expression. Predetermined social rules of class, gender, religion, and ethnicity declined in importance, and the identity formation mechanism of sincerity was replaced by authenticity. Under authenticity, one discovers, realizes, or creates one's own identity, and so selfhood formation becomes an individual's task, one's own task. And for some, this proves to be a blessing. as it unlocks possibilities and potentials that are stunted when one is expected to sincerely conform to predetermined social roles. For others, it is a burden, as with freedom of self expression comes responsibility for the self that is created. Yeah. And what are we creating? What are we contributing to? So, a strange thing has occurred with the rise of social media. Many people are reverting back to a mechanism of identity formation that resembles sincerity. It is called prophylicity. Like sincerity, prophylicity is other directed and is reliant on the reactions of an audience. With sincerity, one's family and community are the audience that cast judgment on how sincerely or properly one plays the predetermined roles in this play. So with prophylicity, the audience is a generalized peer group consisting of hundreds, thousands, or even millions of social media users. But like really too, maybe that's an illusion as well, you know, like because there are a lot of users or accounts on social media that are not real. Yeah, so it's maybe even smaller. So I don't know. It's interesting to think about though. And so it consists of hundreds, thousands, or even millions of social media users, and this audience plays a somewhat different role than under sincerity. Not only does the audience judge the identity one forms, but it also helps shape the very roles one strives to play. For prophylicity entails creating profiles on social media through the selective display of pictures and other bits of information, or in a more passive manner, merely observing the profiles of admired personalities, celebs, talking heads, and then using these idealized profiles as roles to play in real life. Monkey see, monkey do. Mimic and mirroring and mocking. Boo-hoo. So, forming an identity through the mechanism of prophylicity has serious drawbacks. Firstly, it promotes an unhealthy degree of conformity. Prophylicity necessitates not just conforming to the preferences of one's peer group, but also conforming to the standards set by those who manipulate the social media algorithms, or through the ever-increasing gaze of a pervasive audience online, we may become overly pressured, even coerced toward collective opinion, as social media's mechanism of likes, dislikes, friends, and followers constantly subjects us to the crowd's judgment along with that gaze. Jeremy Weissman, The Crowdsourced Panopticon. So by promoting a hyperconformity, prophylicity limits our potential as the generalized peer group of social media users and the manipulators of social media algorithms have no interest in many elements that comprise a healthy sense of self. With prophylicity, if we step too far out of line, if we are too unique, or if our value system diverges too far from what is deemed acceptable, we will be shunned, shamed, and ostracized. Appearances, superficialities, and adhering to the values of popular culture are what matter with prophylicity, not cultivating a harmonized mind, a healthy body, and a fulfilling life. What is more, if we live in a sick society, this sickness will be embodied in the preferences of the generalized peer group. And so in seeking validation of this crowd and embodying their preferences, we lock ourselves into a sick sense of self. Once we give up our true self to play a role, we are fated to be rejected because we have already rejected ourselves. And so, yeah, just going back and reviewing that because there's a lot of gold in that for me. And it did help me understand, how identity formation can lock us into a very rigid labeled box. And so, and I was just really kind of confused about how good people could go along with just very, very deceiving, deceptive, dishonest, bullshit stuff, And so just needed to kind of look into some things for myself and turn it around and flip it for myself. And so what is needed is a healthy sense of self, love for oneself, remembrance of oneself, a knowing of oneself as being one whole within the whole, being one, a whole one being whole. a whole being, one whole centered, whole. Yeah. So, um, whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. That's Nietzsche. And so there's some things that I was sharing with a friend this week. And yeah, she was sharing with me about the company that she works for. So she and another friend of hers, and maybe a couple other people that work there, um, their way of life is incongruent, and it is outside of the bounds of that generalized peer group of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And a lot of things have become like so politicized, like everything. People say that it's not it has nothing to do with politics or whatever. But I think if we're, really wanting to be honest with ourselves, we need to like consider that like certain decisions or certain actions that we take or certain agendas that we have, there is a political agenda, or it has been politicized in certain ways, even if we're not aware of that. And so, yeah, I just think it's like time for radical honesty with ourselves. Like, yeah, just to get real with ourselves for reals. And so, yeah, she was sharing with me about how some of the store policies, like, they say that they'll be confidential, and they say that there won't be any like retaliation or anything like that. But actually, that's not been the case, and it's not true. And so, she was just telling me, some of her struggles, like were, with what she's feeling and how, they've got to, speak up for themselves. And it's just been like a really hard environment to work in because of certain discrimination and certain like retaliation that's been taken against them, like for like them just asserting themselves in their own right to choose what they choose to consent to. And so, yeah, it's just like some of these things, like, of course, like it brings up some fire in me and some anger and like, feeling defensive, and the need to protect and defend myself, like in certain ways, or like from this like overreaching tyranny and like just totalitarian mindset of force and power and control. And just, it's just like, it's always left a bad taste in my mouth, hyperconformity or conformity. But I see like where I have conformed to different roles for my own like safety, stability, security. And so I realized that I was like really angry with myself for doing that and for whoring out myself, so that I could belong and I could be safe and there'd be a place for me. And so I know like that's a lot of the stuff that's being stirred up, like with these persecution, themes and this wound. And so, I had been, like it just kind of, it just makes me mad. Like, and I'm just like, all right, I'm willing to work with this anger. Like, thank you, Badger Medicine. And also, WASP has been coming up, so WASP Medicine, and I'll read a little entry from the Animal Spirit Oracle deck, the Animal Spirit Oracle deck about that. But what I wanted to share was something that I wrote to her, my friend. We were texting, and like I was wondering because Parrot had come up, and Parrot was all about watch your words, and you're creating your reality with your own words, and it's like you're reinforcing certain things. And so it's just like, how do I want to express this? But what I did write was, I do, and I can understand what you're sharing and where you're coming from. I've also felt very disenchanted, disappointed, and disturbed by this selective blindness. I can only imagine how distorted and twisted their politicized perceptions, opinions, and worldviews are in order for them to justify their personal choices and professional actions. The undermining, canceling, and gaslighting has felt intolerable at times during the last 2 years of this collective psychosis. There definitely are wolves in sheep's clothing, and some of them really do believe they are lambs when they're stuck in their delusions of moralism and self-righteousness. They get angry with those who challenge their right thinking and assumptions and create an objective enemy out of those others that try to pierce through their fantasy ideals or ideologies and illusions, threatening their authority, their status, and their prestigious position on the holy pedestal of the false power of force, domination, control, totem pole. It's the lower ego chokehold and allegiance to the parasitic system. It's not real. It's all for show. It's a train wreck in slow-mo. It's a train wreck in slow-mo. And so, like, that kind of, like, stirred up some stuff within me because it was just, like, annoying and frustrating. And it's just, like, I don't even know, like, how they can justify certain things and feel right about it. And it's just, like, okay, like, I'm willing to let this go. And so I just kind of let it rest and everything. And I picked up a book and I flipped right open to something that I needed to see for me. And wow, it was a gift that I was open to receive. And it really did help me remember and choose humility, like that I don't know anything and I am willing to see and let mine eye be single and unify, like all these parts that have been rejected and outcast. Like I'm willing to harmonize and unify them within myself. And so what I flipped open to was the mirror, and it was chapter 11 and from the Christ Blueprint. Judas and the mirror. And so it was super interesting to receive this. So actually, the page that I opened to was 154, and it was persecution. And so this is about Judas Iscariot. Mentally, Judas is the strongest of the apostles, the one who could stand with Yeshua and claim his Christhood. This strength was born from his holding of the mirror, fulfilling his role within the Christ blueprint. Here, his apparent betrayal led to the greatest evolution, for his betrayal actually led to the total fulfillment of the Christ blueprint. Without Judas, Christ consciousness would not have anchored into the deepest hell realms through the ultimately loving act of the crucifixion, and compassion would not have penetrated into the deepest places within the human mindset on earth. Judas was vital in his service, acting as an interface between God and man, as Yeshua did also. Persecution. Much of his work is being continued today through the mirrors of relationship. This mirror is summed up beautifully in the 8th Beatitude. Blessed are they who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Everything on the earth plane works in reverse. Often what you see is not what it appears to be, and only by reversing the perception of what is apparently happening can we find the truth of what is actually happening. Truth's actions are often the reflection, the inverse to what is happening on earth. This is why the double-sided pyramid, one pyramid pointing down and the other pointing up, each reflecting the other in a diamond shape, is such a crucial geometry for understanding the laws and relationship between heaven and earth. Persecution plays a vital role in evolution to a point. When you are judged, scandalized, or shunned by others, this projected energy can actually be used through the awareness of the mirror to empower you to new levels of peace, centeredness, compassion, and understanding. Here, the perceived injustice or the worst thing to happen to us turns out to be the best fuel for evolution. Disruption becomes opportunity, and judgment becomes healing. Chaos becomes opening. Anger becomes bliss, and destruction becomes peace. The energy of persecution can help anchor love within you in a challenging yet undeniable way as a lived, felt experience. The persecution attempted by others is an opportunity given to deepen one's connection to the self and to demonstrate in thought, word, and action that you are established in peace in the self. The persecution attempted by others is an opportunity given to deepen one's connection to self and to demonstrate in thought, word, and action that you are established in peace in the self. In persecution, one is given a palpable choice to live through peace rather than get ensnared by the hooks of ego and the judgments and expectations of others. Persecution is an experience that tests where you think you are at in your evolution and grounds you into recognizing your reflection, your creation, and your responsibility in healing anything that you need to in order to be whole. The unenlightened will always try to knock down the enlightened, to try to find fault, to try to judge what they do not understand based on the personality's concepts and ideas about what enlightenment is or what it should look like. Conversely, but similarly, those who find success in worldly pursuits in gaining wealth, power, and fame are also judged and envied by others who want what they have. It is the energy of envy itself that persecutes and judges others in the mirror of Judas, as well as fear. Here, the trick of the mind to continue to survive in duality is to project out its faults onto others, fighting and blaming the outside world, relationships, governments, partners, and even God for its own misperceptions, making others responsible for the stress and suffering in its life. Through this projection, the mind only hears others through the filters of its own thoughts, experiences, beliefs, and conditionings, losing the state of openness that enables us to be present with each person for who and what they are. One way to overcome this externalizing, projecting aspect of the mind is to own it by reversing it. Through honesty, ultimately, you notice that everything you judge or label in another is yourself. Each time you judge another, change the you into an I, and you will see how much you are putting yourself down. You are merely my projection, my own self-image painted onto you. I am the very thing I judged you to be. Integrating self-mastery, self-empowerment, and co-creation in humility instead of pride enables one to state, I and my Father are one. Rather than the dark suppressing the light or the light shielding the darkness, one can be powerful and pure, stable in the power that you have, as you know it is only for the benefit of all. The split that can occur in the mirror of awareness means a person can become two different people, honest one moment, lying the next, covering up the lie unconsciously to hide the part of them that is wounded. One can be a bright light in 1 minute and a lying deviant the next. The person suffering this cannot even remember the unconscious state, as it was a totally different mind functioning then. He or she can cover up these states through intellectual or emotional manipulation and reasoning, just like a lawyer or a politician can use facts and spin them any way to suit their point of view, or in this case, to validate their split. It is mainly through loving, uncompromising, and honest relationship that these splits can be highlighted and healed so that one can become truly empowered, forgiven, and move on to become a master rather than a perpetual disciple. And I just super appreciated all of that. And I actually did read through the whole entire chapter, just kept going. And it's mirror learning. And then there was a practice that was suggested. So sit in a comfortable position and allow the body-mind to deeply relax. Breathe into the lower belly and allow the mind to silence. Meditate on the Judas symbol and draw it on your third eye chakra 3 times. When you have done so, hold your palm over the third eye to energize the symbol for a minute or 2. Ask this question within. What is the worst thing that has ever happened in my life? Notice and feel what arises. Ask, how has this deeply impacted my life? Remain with the breath and observe what arises with curiosity. Ask, what is one jewel that I learned from this situation that I could never have experienced otherwise? Find the one jewel and say thank you to it and to the situation or the person for this. Say within, if it were not for this experience or from this experience, however bad it seemed, I would not have learned, found, met, moved, and fill in your specific jewel. So if it were not for this experience, however bad it seemed, I would not have learned or found or met or moved. What often appears to be the darkest hour is the greatest ally and empowerment to realize God. And then also I had flipped open again to projection. And this is under the chapter of forgiveness, John Zebedee. Projection. Forgiveness is a deep shift out of the I-ness in which everything revolves around what the I wants, out of grasping and getting to what lies beyond. Forgiveness is our return to original innocence, original wholeness, to see that no harm has ever been done and the other is innocent. To forgive is to heal the fear and the judgment one has been projecting on self, other, and world. In the forgiveness of self for believing the world could be used in any way to get anything at all, or that there was ever a need to, something very deep relaxes. One is able to fully forgive their own projections, attacks, and body-mind hunger, all forms of giving to get, to go beyond acquiring altogether. Forgiveness becomes the great undoing. As we forgive, we go deeper into heartful innocence. As we see how we have been distorting our relationships through the power of expectation and projection, we see how the mind has such power to shape and limit our lives. To forgive means choosing to release another from the expectations, demands, roles, and needs that your mind has been projecting upon them. To forgive means to release yourself from the expectations, demands, roles, and needs that your mind has been demanding of you. It is an act of forgiving oneself of one's projections. In projection, everything is outside, and this mind justifies itself by blaming another and the world for all the decisions and lies that you seemingly have been forced to enact in order to survive in this world. Projection colors others with the very energies you are denying and judging within your own self. We create the veils through which we view creation. Projection occurs when we deny a part of ourselves, when we try to sweep into the basement what we do not wish to see or own as part of our own self. Projection owns nothing and blames everything. It is the ultimate victim consciousness, for in projection, your ego states that everything is outside of you and that you create nothing. It is the complete opposite to the eternal truth that you create everything in your life. Forgiveness chooses to surrender every perception that you have, leading to the truth of who we are. Memory and value. In forgiveness, we become fully self-responsible for everything that happens to us, as we realize that we have created everything that happens in our lives in order to learn and grow. This is a big step to take, to own everything in your life, all relationships, all reactions and responses, all actions, all wounds, all ideas of victimhood, to see everything as self-created and self-perpetuated. To forgive and accept is to humbly learn your own lessons and not worry about the other's lessons and perceived shortcomings. To embrace oneself and all others who have assisted you in this play of learning. Looking back in time at the issues that need forgiveness can be a painful experience, for memory and its stories define who we think we are and who others are in our own minds. Memory shapes our personalities, conditioning our reactions to whatever is presented to us in our everyday life. Our memories of stress, judgment, and pain keep us from experiencing anything as it is right now in this moment. Yet this pain is not about the memories themselves, but is linked to what you believe about the memory. Memories create the self, hundreds of fragmented, interconnected movements within our own mind that all combine together in one apparently continuous flow to create the idea of an individual person. A person is a process, not a fixed static object created from frozen memories based on belief and value judgments. Forgiveness is right value. Withdraw your sense of value from that which creates acts and words of projection, anger, and conflict, and choose instead to be disciplined in valuing love above all else, even if it means you have to retract your words and actions straight after you say them. Being right means being humble and true to your heart's knowings, not your mind's insistence on feeling right and justified. Where are there conflicts or a need to defend something in your life? What situations and people provoke this? When did this last happen? Bring this to mind right now. How are your thoughts, feelings, and old memories supporting these conflicts? Can you see the innocence in yourself and the other? Are you valuing and expressing love in these actions? It matters not what another is or does. It matters how you perceive them and then how you act on that perception. Do you choose to see their innocence and your shared common thread of innocence, or do you choose to see a temporary illusion? Forgiveness opens the heart to harmony and true relationship. What you perceive in others that creates separation is only a reflection of yourself, a resonant chord. You too have known that fearful or angry state and have also identified with it at some point. Otherwise, there would be no judgment. You too are fearful that you can descend into that state. even though you think you cannot and have gone beyond this point. You try to protect yourself through defensive judgment so that you can feel safe in your own energy, keeping the survival of the ego intact by labeling it as outside of yourself. Acknowledging this fully allows the opening to harmony and true relationship through humble awareness, self-responsibility, and turning inward rather than outward. We can also keep others trapped in their perceptions of themselves by colluding with their perceptions about their own selves. If we have the courage to forgive our own perceptions of another and therefore our own selves, it allows all room to breathe and expand into wholeness. By forgiving and surrendering our perception of any other, we allow the other to be free also. Here we are truly one. Here we truly are one. When forgiveness is established, you become non-reactive, living in deep faith and peace, relaxed in all circumstances. You expand, allow, and accept the flow of life as it comes. You do not tolerate egoic judgment within yourself or of others. This lack of tolerance, this flowering of awareness, is a deep acceptance of love, a surrender to natural harmony, seeing the best in all beings, in all life, and continually choosing this. For God is in everything. Even if our clouded perceptions deny that, it is still there. The wonderful thing is that it always has and always will be. Practice this. Go out now to the street, look at each person you see, and see only their natural innocence, the love within them. Go to your loved ones, your loved and familiar ones, and try this too. If they are open to it, ask them to return this seeing to you through the eyes. Gaze at each other in innocence and allow what is to happen. When you forgive yourself, you give to yourself and to all others. Forgiving is the action for giving. Service arises through forgiveness. No longer is there need of getting or fear of losing. All of one's heart and soul and all of one's actions serve as conduits for the healing of others and in celebration of the truth that love is. To serve another is to come to see that they are but an aspect of you and that they struggle with identity, with ego, as do you. But of course, that cannot be seen until it is seen in oneself. Wow. And that was the end of that chapter around forgiveness and John Zebedee. So the Christ Blueprint, 13 Keys to Christ Consciousness, Padma Ayan Prakasha. So, wow, like that was exactly what I needed. And that came to me a couple days ago. And yeah, I read through it a couple different times, and I even got more this time rereading it again. So, yay, I get to allow that to percolate for me. And yeah, I'm willing to look deeper into those messages and what they can show me. And so, yeah, it does. There's a lot that relates, and so much that I could share and say. A lot of stuff came up for me in the last couple days around this and around projection and around judgment, not seeing things as they are right now. But yeah, like kind of having a colored lens or a colored filter or a cloudy lens because of memories of the past and the pain and discomfort and like those unpleasant things that have happened in the past. And so I realized too that like that does affect us in our ways of seeing like what currently is. And so it is good to have good discernment and discrimination. But that is different than judgment. It's good to see things as they are. It's good to be aware of how, like, sometimes when we're in judgment and we think it is justified, and it's preventing us from really seeing and receiving, like, the opportunity and the gift that's being given right before our eyes, to see it for what it really is. And so last night, there was something that came up with me and my husband, and it was super uncomfortable and I didn't like it at all, but I knew that it was for our highest good and our highest growth. And I knew there was going to be some potentially explosive things coming to the surface because I was just feeling that the last couple days, like the pot's being stirred and, something's either going to explode or implode, like in the inner reality and the outer reality. And so just kind of like feeling that maybe something was coming, didn't know where it was going to come from, but like, yeah, sure enough, something came up. And it was like just strange how like it kind of just did and how it presented itself. And I was triggered about something and he was triggered about something, but we were having a totally different experience and we were coming from totally different perspectives. And so it was really super interesting. And I was reading something the other day from In the House of the Moon that I was going to share with my Luensaw circle. And it was about the stream of life and the wisdom of the whole. And there was a little story in there that I might share next time. But basically, like the message of it was, thank you for everything. I have no complaints whatsoever because I know that everything is like useful and it's a part of the whole, and I can honor and value each part that it plays for the whole. And so it was just like, okay, instead of like falling into victim consciousness about it, like, because man, sometimes those things when they come up, they kind of sting. They like, yeah, sometimes it feels like it really hurts the heart, but it really like is a harsh light that the ego doesn't like either. And so it's just like, sometimes, yeah, that's what it's more about is like the ego doesn't want to feel that, like that sting because it already feels so small and insignificant, already. So it's just, yeah, kind of humorous, like to observe and to watch and to witness in certain ways and like to see where I was like very like upset about being projected and onto and dumped on when I thought it was very unfair. And then I got to see like in my own ways, like how I was doing the same thing, although it was like more subtle and like in my viewing, how I was doing it to my own self in certain ways and how I'd been allowing that, how I'd been allowing people to project shit on me and agreeing to that and, and colluding with others about like their own perceptions of themselves. And so it's just, yeah, really super interesting. And I got to work with this. I was like, okay, bring on this bullshit. I was like, at first, fuck this, no. But then I was like, all right, this bullshit has a lot of gold. So thank you very much. I have no complaints whatsoever. Even though this kind of sucks and stinks and stings right now. But like willing to work with it and willing to receive it and like the spirit of love and like what's underneath this, So I wrote a lot of things about that. Last night, letting go, allowing it all to be moved, come what may, trust in myself, trust love, and trust life to show me, to lead me, to guide me to life. This love is always. Seeing that it is all a stage, a play, a game, a dance, an experience, a phase, a part of the journey, a part of the play, a part of the story, a part of all ways. Learning, growing, expanding, knowing, forgetting, contracting, and moving away. Different perspectives and perceived realities. It's either mind control, like that false ego strategy, or self-mastery. So cooperation and camaraderie, tolerance and empathy, boundaries and inclusivity, bonding, creating and deepening, reciprocity, generous giving and receiving fully with gratitude, trust, grace, and ease, humility, faith, receptivity, forgiveness. Trusting the highest good will come from the most challenging things if we can let go of our resistance and judgment or our identification, our false identity that's been programmed, reinforced, perpetuated, cycled through, and held on to. The false perfection, false perception, false light, false self-conception, the one right way to be, the one way, to be right story. And How dare you play small? How dare you play the victim to make me and we wrong? How dare you hang the past or hang that over my head and try to use that as leverage against me? Gaslighting, twisting, and distorting for your own agendas and personal gains, perceptions and imagination, misuse and abuse, disconnection, control and domination, enslavement. Goddess, be angry. Use this fuel for course correction. This artificially inseminated reality. I don't know what else to say. We have so much unlearning and deprogramming, reprogramming, and re-envisioning to choose. Yeah. There's blindness, blind spots, and vulnerabilities. Let the healing begin again. So, man, we were both so very triggered by these wounds that were illuminated and the reflections that came up to the surface to be moved, healed, and forgiven, given back to the great heart womb. Holy shit, I can only imagine going into this with both eyes fused shut. There is no way to unify and harmonize without each way fully allowed to be open. Let thine eye be single, the middle way. Balance, harmony, union, clarity, love, power, wisdom, freedom, and responsibility. Unity. Thank you, blessings. Thank you, everything. Thank you, life, in her, in our totality. The phoenix and the dragon, the fires of passion and purification. All are one. Getting struck by lightning isn't always pretty. Waking up all of a sudden doesn't feel so very giddy. The harsh light of the tower collapsing. I'm just so done pretending and defending what I feel, know, see, and tired of hiding who I am for others' comfort. Yeah, and for their validation and their approval, their acceptance. You know, for that like feedback, the feedback loops and people pleasing and yeah, that's that external validation. I'm kind of like, I really don't need it anymore. And I'm really like, there's a part of myself that was really angry at this other part of myself that still wants it. Because there's this one part that's just like, nope, not doing that anymore. I'm so angry about it. Like, screw, like all of that. You know, not betraying myself anymore. And so there is this like really really amazing aspect that has a lot of power that's just fed up though, and she's just not going to take any shit any longer. She's just so done. So yeah, she is so done prostrating herself before false gods while whoring herself away. No more playing nice and pretending it's okay. So reality assessment and healthy clear boundaries. Like I am allowed to have my say and to have my opinion and to have my experience. So I allow that for myself. Badger medicine, feisty and spicy. Eris stirring the pot the fuck up. And good old wasp. So the hungry ghost is really hungry for what is real. It never gets any satisfaction from the feral replacement subworld pseudo-real. It wants the soul-made life, but it is self-denied. You know, like the hungry ghost denies itself its own life, deprives itself of its own life. Why? Explore why. Why do you hide, reject, or deny? So clear out your excuses and why you can't, and why you abandon, and judge and condemn. What is there to hide? What parts of you do you ostracize? And what image are you trying to save, prop up, or inflate, or hide, or project, blame, cage, and place onto the outside? And there's a no-nonsense part of me that's stepping forward and saying, no, I will no longer agree to hold your garbage for you any longer. No. You are responsible for what is growing or decaying, expanding, blooming, or stagnating. Be lovingly fucking real with yourself, for God's sake, for life's sake, for love's sake. How in the fuck are you betraying, devaluing, denying, hiding, minimizing, undermining, squashing, possessing, restricting, disallowing, disrespecting, and dishonoring yourself? Betraying and rejecting yourself. Well, that is so very grand. Good fucking luck and 7 save you, friend. Yeah. So, yeah, the snarky snark has been coming up to play. And yeah, during that interaction that we had, Yeah, I just kind of I felt this really really badass part of myself wanted to just like, you know what? I'm going to call you out on your bullshit. I'm going to call you out. I need to. I have to call you out. And so it was like, it wasn't the most graceful and it wasn't the prettiest either. It was like more of a mad dog kind of, kind of an aspect, like fucking mad dog that needs to howl and tell you what the fuck. Yeah, it is. And so, yeah, I just like, instead of judging myself or instead of like suppressing that part of myself, it's just like, okay, I get to play with this. Okay, we're going to see where this goes. And instead of like, because, yeah, usually like when I have like emotional outbursts or when I don't maintain things or sometimes even intellectualize my emotions, like, yeah, it makes me feel like a little more vulnerable and I guess, I don't know, like some kind of a crazy bitch, which like, because a lot of people that know me like know that I'm like very, very even keeled and that like I'm very, very, very patient and they've rarely heard me like get angry or raise my voice, but, or, lose it or anything because like, yeah, I'm pretty easygoing. But it is like, this thing I was reading a couple weeks ago, this book called Surrounded by Idiots. And it was like these different color coded like personalities for working with people who have different personality traits or, so there was like the red type, like that's the type A, the aggressive type. And then there's the yellow that's like the extroverted and the optimistic and the social bubbly type. And then there's the green one that's the friendly and the easygoing laid back type, which is more of my dominant personality. And then there's the blue type, which is really analytical and structured and ordered and like intellectual. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's the blue type. And so I can see like that I had like all of these different traits within myself. Like the one that I least identify with or have identified with is the red, the boss, the powerful, aggressive, like, yeah, really, I guess, strong willed. Like, kind of have to have, yeah, like, kind of, I guess, what we've seen as a leader type, or, like just getting in there and taking the reins and all of that. Um, yeah, it's just kind of interesting that this book, I was like just kind of at my daughter's house watching the baby, and I had picked up this book and started like looking into it. And so it was super interesting where it was like, imagine that the red type, imagine that they have a shot glass and the shot glass is filled up. And when they get to a certain point or of irritation or whatnot, they just dump the shot glass over and then like they clear it away. They clear that energy away. Like, and so, but like maybe they're constantly filling up that shot glass, but it comes in like little bursts. And so maybe to some people, they might come across as like perpetually like angry and aggressive and just always, but that's just how they are. That's just how they let off their steam or whatnot. Like that's just their learned ways and mechanisms like of coping or whatnot. Like they don't let it build up. They just kind of like dump it like when it's full and they need to. But as far as the green type of personality went, it was like a huge gigantic keg that they let fill up and fill up and fill up and fill up. And then when it gets full, it gets dumped all over the desk. It washes the desk clear out of the room and everything else and any bystander that's going to be like in there. It's just going to be washed away by this like, yeah, all of this pent up or stuffed up like energy or frustration or whatever it is until and it will just like wash everything away. So watch out, like beware something like beware the wrath of the patient man. So like, I mean, I've had like some episodes like that before, but it is kind of humorous seeing it in that kind of way where, yeah, that has been like an old pattern, like to like just wait and wait and wait until it gets intolerable, and then it has to be dumped all over the place. And so, yeah, just need to be aware of that too, so that I can express myself in authentic, healthy ways and not like totally destructive, indiscriminate ways. And so, yeah, just so letting myself like feel what I feel, but being mindful of how I direct like that energy. And if I'm blaming or dumping it out on someone else. But yeah, this is kind of interesting. Like sometimes I feel a little bit foolish for expressing things in the heat of the moment, because there are certain things that aren't true, but there are stories that like want to come through, to be seen and to be recognized, to be worked with, to be acknowledged, yeah, to be allowed. And yeah, so it's just, yeah, pretty interesting like process just to be in. And then in hindsight can see after the encounter, like what actually gave me, what it was actually offering, what it was actually for, to help me with. So like, how is this happening for me? And all those things. How is this happening for me? How's this happening for the greatest growth or the greatest good, or the for restructuring of this relationship? And just because sometimes like as we grow, like there is, a need for rebalancing. And so sometimes certain confrontations need to come up because we're stuck in our comfort zones around them, and they had been working so far, but like at a certain point, there's, certain things that were working before aren't going to work the same ways that they did before. And so it's just like, yeah, kind of seeing into those things in a lot of ways. And so when we're stuck in the past, there is no room for novelty. And when we're stuck in expectation or idealization of what could be or what should be, there is no room to receive what is present currently. So this is future fantasy baiting, a carrot on a stick, master debating, control obsession, instant gratification, entitlement, overstimulation, overcompensation for repressed, suppressed emotions and aspects. So love thyself, know thyself, and stop feeding those self-doubt parasites. Own and claim your own spiritual maturity, self-love, and mastery. Ownership, accountability, self-worth, self-respect, self-autonomy, the wholeness that I am. Conscious integrity, knowing the self, and dissolving the mirror. I am that I am. And so, there is one more thing. Let's see. The sad inner child that's ignored, neglected, starved, and cast aside, devalued, malnourished, subbed aside, traumatized, sacrificed, cut off, sold, disrespected, blamed, and blasphemed. I am so sorry. I love you. I love you. I thank you. I respect you. I love you. I forgive you. I forgive me. I respect you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I thank you. I thank you. I respect you. And so, letting go, letting go, letting go. Allowing it all to be moved, come what may. Trust in myself, trust love, and trust life to be, show me the way. And so, yeah, this is like, there was a lot of things like that, there's that confrontations bring up for me. And I don't like how they feel and stuff. But yeah, I just like, I knew that, this needs to, unfold right now. And so just let go of my resistance to it and just go and just be with it. And so like it did actually clear some ground that needed to be cleared. And it's still like in process, or sometimes you don't really need to understand everything that's happening either, and just gotta allow it and trust that it is like clearing something out of the way so that something else can come in and into the new space. And so there was this page that I opened to in this book today, actually, and it was kind of interesting to receive that. And I had shared a couple weeks ago from this book. It's called Sedition, Subversion, and Sabotage, Field Manual Number 1, a 3-part solution to the state. So I had flipped open to page 33 and I read that. But what was really kind of cool, too, was what was on the next page. And so, know yourself. The wise man lives by principles and is never in a hurry to make a bad decision. The fool only knows his immediate desire and rushes towards his next mistake. And so, like, really, though, it's not, I feel like, too, there are no mistakes. There really are no mistakes. We just get to course correct and redirect, like, our energy. And, like, certain things, like, can teach us and show us, like, where we haven't really been showing up for ourselves, or where we've been skirting our own, like, responsibility, or projecting blame, or onto the outside of us, and not taking our own accountability. And so during in this little chapter, it's talking about, like, how there are, like, different categorizations of people that actually kind of push the agendas of, like, this totalitarian state. So on the outer surface, these people tend to appear more obviously evil, as their names are often associated with the kinds of crime the state makes headlines and lead the news cycles. Let's see. These are typically, yes, this is relating actually to what was bothering me and my friend and I were talking about. And so there's different kinds of people. There's the obedient. There are the fanatics. Yeah. Let's look at the most powerful. They are the easy ones to pick on. They are the top tier leaders, the elite central bankers, the upper crust of the corporate world, the highest ranking intelligence officers, the highest ranking military officers, and finally, the least powerful of the top tier, the political heads of state. These are the untouchables. With a few exceptions, these are the positions that are handed down to the select, not earned by the deserving. These truly powerful people will do anything to anyone, including each other, to remain in power. They form and break alliances, and as they do, people in the lower ranks die, sometimes in quite large numbers. The one starkly striking thing about these elites is that they, for the most part, apparently believe the entire great man myth and view themselves as a kind of super race destined to guide humanity, like something out of Mein Kampf or some 1920s eugenics handbook. Most of them believe in the hereditary right of ascension, and they practice it. The fact may be hard to believe, especially for Americans who have little or no respect for kings and royal families. But no matter what you or I may think, the important thing is that they believe and practice hereditary right of ascension with violent vigor and enthusiasm, and in doing so, they justify any and all actions that they must take to maintain their power. They believe it is their responsibility, their destiny, and their divinely appointed burden to be in power, and they will incinerate millions without hesitation to fulfill that divine appointment. Individually, they are not Hollywood movie monsters. They are kind to their pets and they love their mothers. They enjoy art and music, and they don't ever want to see another ugly war. Well, some of them maybe. They give incredible amounts of their wealth to charities, and yet, so long as they breathe, they will maintain their power structure if it means burning their own houses to the ground. And so, yeah, that is interesting. These are typically the fiercely loyal fanatics, not to a cause, a nation, or a team, but their loyalty is to powerful individuals, and ultimately their loyalty is to their quest for their own power. On the outer surface, these people tend to appear more obviously evil, as their names are often associated with the kinds of crimes of the state that make the headlines and lead the news cycles. But like almost all criminals, they rarely consider themselves or their actions as evil. They have layers of mental hoops they jump through to justify their actions. They use collectivist excuses to justify killing the innocent or destroying economies, and they almost always believe what that what they are doing is for the greater good. And as a final level of faith in the state, they believe the double-edged excuse: if the overall action really is bad, their boss is to blame. But if the execution of the action is the part that is bad, their underlings should have refused the orders. By riding in the magic middle, they justify their evil by blaming the decision on those above them while blaming the action on those below them. These humans are incredibly dangerous. Finally, we come to the obedient, the patriotic, the ones bursting with national or cultural pride or painted over in civic duty and esprit de corps. Although all categories of humans tend to have overlapping groups, it's almost never accurate to draw hard lines between people. You should strive to differentiate between the obedient, as described here, and the neutrals described later in this manual. Neutrals typically are not successful in dirty jobs like killing, caging, destroying, extorting, and intimidating because their own sets of morals cause them to object to such behavior. In cases where neutrals are forced to commit atrocities due to circumstances, they usually suffer mentally and emotionally as they lack the coping mechanisms that the more obedient utilize. And that may be the easiest way to judge between neutrals and the obedient, as the more obedient seem to be well suited taking orders and committing atrocities. Some even relish in the deed, but even they find ways of excusing their actions. However, once again, these are not cartoon monsters. They have families, they walk their dog, they get stuck in traffic, they have more debt than they want, they are very often church supporters. They may think cat videos are cute, but given the order, they will kick you in your door, they will kill your dog and place a gun to your grandmother's head. Then they will have justified what they have done in their duty report. They will congratulate themselves for being a hero and go home to their children. These very human, seemingly normal, everyday people are our enemies. The powerful will incinerate cities to maintain their power. Those enthralled with the powerful will justify that decision and pass the order to the obedient, who will not only obey, but they will gleefully commit mass murder and brag about it in their old age. The most immediately dangerous individual of the three groups are the obedient, but you can't win by fighting them because there is an endless supply of the obedient. You have to fight smart and not based on the emotions of the moment. Remember, Henry Kissinger referred to the obedient as dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns. And so, again, as much as it seems that the obedient should be our targets and as much justified hate will be rightly aimed at the obedient in the coming years, we have to look beyond wasting resources and time attempting to engage the obedient directly and find ways to touch the power enthralled and eventually the untouchables. By doing so, we break the chain of command, freeing the obedient so that they may choose to stop obeying. Know yourself. Oftentimes, the desire to do something overrides the ability to use wisdom in discriminating between what can be done and what should be done, as opposed to what should never be done. Generally, things like anger, fear, desperation, and ignorance are amplified by would-be leaders who have something directly to gain by your foolish choices. One way to spot such a would-be leader is to ask yourself what they have to gain if you follow their lead. One way to spot such a would-be leader is to ask yourself what they have to gain if you follow their lead. What is the real product they're selling? And they're selling a path, a concept, an idea, or are they selling themselves as the guru of that path, concept, idea? Are they teaching their followers how to lead themselves, to stand on their own and go out there and do the right things? Or are they building a dependent following to constantly fluff the leader's ego while he siphons the wealth of the followers? So I think that's super interesting. And I don't agree, just for disclosure, I don't agree with every single concept and idea in this book, but it does give me certain things to look at, contemplate, and chew on. And I am aware that there are projections being projected on all sides. Yeah, from all angles sometimes. And so I have been looking into working with the enemy and working with the friend and working with the asshole. Yeah, and all those things. And so just this is something that I needed to see for me, and try to flip this around and reverse this for me. Harmonize and unify this split within me. And so, like, I feel like a lot of that is coming up right now, where we can see, like there's a lot of energy around, like, what leadership really is, like, what true leadership is. And a leader isn't just someone that that has followers. A real leader teaches others how to lead and how to lead themselves. And so that's what I super respect about, some of the true leaders that are really, really in service to the whole. And so, I thought this was, super interesting. What is the real product they're selling? Are they selling a path, a concept, an idea? Are they selling themselves as the guru of that path, concept, or idea? Are they teaching their followers how to lead themselves, stand on their own, and go out there and do the right things? Or are they building a dependent? So that you can be a perpetual disciple, it goes along nicely with what I shared with the Christ blueprint. So, I'll share one more thing. I was nudged to draw inspiration from unlikely places and unfamiliar things. And so instead of drawing a card from an oracle deck like last week, I decided to grab a card from Cards Against Humanity. And the card that I got says getting struck by lightning. And I thought that was like the best thing ever. And I've been working with that and working with like the thunder beings and the elements and frog medicine. And so, it was just all these fun synchronicities really at play. And this is like turning into the best treasure hunt ever, really. Because it is like there's so much gold in it, always. If I'm willing to see and I'm willing to let go of my resistance to what is, even if it's not my preference. And been looking at those things as well. So wasp spirit from the Spirit Animal Oracle. Sometimes life stings. Not all that spirit creates in nature is easy to love, but when we look through the eyes of wasp spirit, we recognize that even though sometimes life stings, there is a purpose for pain, just as there is a purpose for wasps in the natural world. Wasps keep insect populations down, supporting the growth of plants. So too, the sting of life may hurt, and you may feel disappointed or even resentful that wasp spirit has shown up, but you will soon come to see that spirit has something wonderful in store for you. You may well come to realize that being stung led to something far better that you had envisioned for yourself. Perhaps behind the scenes, wasp spirit was conspiring with spirit to ensure that you could grow something of value to you. Spirit has a plan, and wasp spirit plays a part. Have you ever looked back and been glad your prayers weren't answered because the path you took led to something far better? Wasp spirit is a reminder to reflect on those times, for today's sting may hurt, but something better awaits you. Thank you, wasp. Protection message. Are you holding on to anger, jealousy, or resentment because you got stung? Or could you have just stung yourself by comparing yourself to others? There will always be someone else who is more successful, happier, thinner, richer, etc. Jealousy is the false belief that you can't have what you want or someone could take away something that was supposed to be yours. Let it go and release all those feelings that are making the sting hurt long after the stinger has been removed. Wasp spirit has woken you up, and now you are called to trust that disappointment can lead you to a different and better path. Align with spirit now and trust that this too shall pass, and it is already doing so, for the pain subsides when you stop telling the story of how much it hurt. Thank you, wasp. And whale came up yesterday as well. Whale spirit is trust the great mystery. Whale spirit is an ancient creature who is here at the beginning of time and who has seen everything, felt everything, and heard everything that has ever transpired on this planet. In the hidden realms where all things must gather first before manifesting into form, Whale spirit is the keeper, singing the soul of the whole world from the deepest waters of the coldest seas. When whale spirit appears, it is a reminder that there is a great mystery that you must accept without intellectually trying to understand it. Some things cannot be known by the mind, only experienced through the heart, through intuition, and through the peripheral senses that part the invisible veils separating the visible world from the great manifesting consciousness in the hidden realms. Now is the time for you to immerse yourself in the great mystery of spirit and to trust that within the invisible, what you can't see now are seeds of your intentions being tended to by angels. Thank you, whale. Protection message. Certainty is not offered to you right now. You are being asked to trust this process of co-creation. Whale spirit reminds you that your primary reality is not that of the material world, but that of the realm of spirit, from which the essence of your dreams and desires take shape before arriving as a specific form. You must trust absolutely that what will come will be for the highest good. Stay in your present moment awareness and allow the hidden realms to hold your intentions safely until it is time for them to manifest in the realm of form. Let go, for you will not be left behind. Some things take longer than others to arrive. Yeah. Super beautiful messages. So, maybe there are more approachable parts of me than I've previously seen or believed, if and when I allow them space to have a place to be all they are. And trippy ass things. Heard on a podcast today about modern Gnosticism and the parasite cleanse. Oh man, everything is dyslexic lately. Reversed and mirrored in the most fun house sort of ways. Oy vey, clearing the distortions and misperceptions. Love always. What if I don't have to control anything? What if the real power is in letting it be, letting love be, and allowing the love to flow in receptivity, responding and projecting with my own reality, my own inner voice and inner knowing, my fertile imagination and my sacred psychic space, and my creative energy. Yeah, love's creative energy, and it is all a learning curve, so just allow the process to unfold and to show me all I need to see in unity for harmony, balance, inclusivity, a healthy whole, a healthy me and we, a whole healing for every being. And I thank all the parts for playing their part, for all that is, that could be. And I bless all the healing taking place, although it doesn't look as it should be. Man, some harsh shit came up to the surface to be accepted, allowed, transformed, and seen in the light of truth, wholeness, reconfiguration, transcendence, and unity. For true trust and transparency is deepening, and all that is not trustworthy must be brought into the light to be seen. We must stop lying to ourselves and see where we have played into this self-deception, separation game. Persecuting the villain for our ego's self-righteous gains, propping itself up so clever, substantial, and vain, trying to cover up for its inherent vulnerability of being small and insignificant in the scheme of separate things. Ah, damn it. Just want to call out the shit and bring it into the light of awareness. Frozen lakes and ponds, spiritual necrophilia, mental illness and schizophrenia, sociopathic tendencies, codependence and narcissism, hyperconformity, neo-tribalism identities, aversion, fears, prejudices, addictions, projections, attachments, parasites, and a parasitic system. Monkey see, monkey do, unconscious antics, blarg, blarg, blarg. What more can I do? Repulsion and aversion, denial, super hard to come to grips with, a rude wake the fuck up call. How do we respond to that really and truly, sometimes gracefully and sometimes not so generously or pristinely, like that of a mad dog? Don't shoot the messenger, just receive or choose to disagree with the personality or the agenda. Yeah. Ego and personality can be the biggest cockblock if we were stuck in the identity or the one-way street of me, spiritual ego, super ego tantrums, and expectations of the way it's supposed to be. Ego traps in artificial spiritual glass ceilings, program mentality of false perfections, and holy smoke and mirrors obscuring our ability to see clearly by looking on the outside and expecting things to change. He who looks outside dreams. He who looks within awakens, awakening to the dream and the simulation, the dance, the game, the story of all stories, the right to be free, the right to freely be, the right to fully be, without so much trying, suffering, or efforting. enjoying our existence and what and who we get to be. Simplicity, simplicity, grounding, grounding, stability, stability, integrity, integrity, wholeness, freedom, and accountability. All this currency. Don't tread on me. Own your own shit and your own energetic responsibilities. There's a part of me that is so sick and tired of being dumped on, scapegoated, persecuted, and conveniently used, projected onto, scorned, defiled, and abused. She says, fuck this, fuck this, fuck this, fuck off, fuck you, fuck all this noise and this bullshitified nonsense. Fuck it all up to see into and through the shit that it is. Oh, fucking hell. LOL. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned and pushed into the furnace corner. Let's use this shit to fuel the fire in the most creative ways. Thank you, life. Thank you, love, for all this fuel for change. This must be what it feels like to be mature with wisdom, experience, age. AD behavior and GSF, looking into those things and accurately assessing a unified reality. If all is interconnected and interdependent and quantumly connected and affected, then it is a multidimensional tree, and we are all that, all of it, all that is. And we had to become aware of this to clearly see where we disowned our power, rejected it, or gave it away. So what are the irritants in your environment? Where is it time to clean your own house, within yourself, within your own environment? What are these triggers, irritants, allies showing you about your space, about your little self? Where have you denied, disallowed, devalued you? The personal and the impersonal. Love is always. Life is like a cup of tea. It's all about what you make it. Choose a creator mentality. We are the creators of our reality. Empowering new life, light, and regenerating possibilities, emanating authentic source creation, source creator energy, the force, God's will, God's laws, the whole of creation, to be everything it gets to be. Let go of the need for understanding or to convince anyone of anything. Just be. Let go of projections, agendas, fears, and anxieties. Surrender and trust and be free. And so, yeah, one of the little messages that's been coming up for me was that the universe doesn't want you to try harder. The universe just wants you to trust it more. And so I added, my own little thing to that. It's just like the universe just wants you to listen and trust it more. Yeah. And just trust yourself, trust life, and let like some of this old stuff go. Let some of those old stories go. Don't have to cling so tightly anymore, like to what is ready to go. So thanks for listening, and thanks for being you, and thanks for playing your part for all of us, for me and you. I love you, and I thank you, and I praise you, and I bless you, and I hope you're being love for yourself and choosing all good things and all the love you need for your well-being. All right, we'll talk to you later. Bye for now.